Are you ready to learn what it takes to be a successful attorney? You're listening to Corner Office with me, Elise Powers. I'm sitting down with some of the most successful attorneys so you can learn how they made it to the top of the legal industry. You'll hear their advice for how you can forge your unique path to success. Welcome to another solo episode of Corner Office with me, Elise Powers. I'm excited to talk about a really important topic, which is time, project, and people management. For associates in particular, more junior associates, you're often working with multiple supervising attorneys, multiple clients, and no one is coordinating, are we giving Elise too much work on this day or this week? They're all just giving you the work and expecting you to figure out how it's all going to get done. And of course, everyone thinks that their work is the most important work. So this can lead to feelings of overwhelm, which causes us to have poor sleep. We're laying in bed at night thinking about all the things that need to get done. We might be overeating, stress eating. That's me. Some people have the opposite where they're not eating anything. They're skipping meals. Maybe you're feeling anxious. Your heart is racing. You're not able to disconnect from work. Being overwhelmed is not a good feeling, and it's frankly not sustainable to have a long-term career in law. So when we think about what causes us to feel overwhelmed, to have all of these negative impacts in our life, one of the most common causes is a sense of being out of control. I don't feel like I have enough time to get all of my work done by the date that it's due. I don't even know what I need to do, what's on my plate. I don't know how I'm going to do the work. I don't know how to approach it. I've never done it before. So when we think about time, project, and people management, there's really three pillars that everyone needs to be in control of. The first is the work that you're responsible for. When something gets assigned to you, it becomes your responsibility and you take ownership of it. The second is your time and attention. So how are you managing yourself and your day to get the work that's on your plate done? And the third component is the people that you work with. How are you managing upwards? Or if you're a supervising attorney, how are you managing downstream so that the little things don't get missed? I think of this as the three pillars that keep a building sturdy and stable. We're going to dive into each of these three pillars in this episode and talk through some techniques that associates in our workshops have found helpful. So let's start with, how do you keep track of all of the work that you're responsible for? When you have multiple people giving you work, you have to have a central location to see the whole, to understand everything that is on your plate. You might be an Excel person and you have a spreadsheet that you reference every single morning to see what needs to get done now and in the future. You might be a handwritten pen and paper person. Whatever you choose, everyone just needs to find what works for them. I have some people who like to keep track of all of their assignments on a whiteboard in their office. I personally would have trouble with that because when I'm working from home, I want to be able to see what's on my plate. So some people say, well, I just take a picture of it and I have it on my phone when I get home. It wouldn't work for me, but if it works for you, great. There's no one right way to keep track of assignments. You just have to find something that works for you. I think if you're going to go the Excel route, what I would think about is having the rows horizontally, have every project and then sub rows with each task. What is involved to get a project done so that you can see the whole? For the columns that I would consider having in this Excel spreadsheet are, the estimated hours. How long will this task take, do you think? This is important, especially for first-year associates, when a lot of the work you've never done it before, so you don't know how long it should take you and you don't know how long it will take you. You're obviously tracking your time and reporting your time, but if you keep track of how long you thought it was going to take you, very quickly you're going to start gathering some data points on
directionally, am I over or underestimating my time? The second column is, when is the final due date? When did the supervising attorney say that they needed this by? So that's the kind of drop dead date. I'd also have another column for what I consider your internal due date. That's the date you're working towards, the date that you plan to have it done, and it should be before the final due date. This gives you this nice buffer where if something takes longer than expected, if some urgent, unexpected task comes your way, it's not an emergency because hopefully you've already gotten it done in advance of when it was actually due. So you're working towards that internal due date. You're not necessarily telling anyone what that internal due date is. It's just for yourself. And then you'll keep track of, what's the attorney that I'm working with? Maybe are there any other dependencies? Do you need information, templates, research from a paralegal, a project assistant, another associate? All of that should be in your Excel spreadsheet. I recommend starting every single day, even just 5 minutes going into this document, however you structure it, and reviewing it. And that is how you figure out what you're going to work on that day. It ensures that nothing gets missed. You might even get fancy and use conditional formatting in Excel and have it highlighted green, yellow, red, depending on level of urgency or when you're going to prioritize it. For those of you that like a handwritten pen and paper approach, one thing that I swear by that is like a complete game changer for us handwritten note people is a Remarkable tablet. It's almost like a Kindle, that a Kindle's only meant for reading books. A Remarkable is just for taking handwritten notes. So it feels like you're writing on paper. It allows you to have this little tablet with all of your notes organized with folders. It automatically uploads to the cloud. That's what I use because I much prefer to keep things on my just kind of physical, tangible, like I want to be able to hold it. So the Remarkable is much better than, I think, a notebook if you are going to keep track of everything handwritten. So you're keeping track of final due date, internal due date. How long do you think it is going to take you? Who are the supervising attorneys? What are any dependencies? This is going to keep you organized. Now, in order to figure out how long something is likely going to take you, how long you estimate it's going to take, I recommend this process that we've developed, and it's called the dip-in. The dip-in approach is this idea that anytime you get an assignment, you dip your toe in, say 30 to 60 minutes to just scope it out. What you want to avoid is a situation where you get an assignment, it's due end of week, Thursday night, 9 p.m., you're half asleep and you realize, oh my gosh, I have to get this done. You open it up and you realize, this is a 20-hour assignment, or I need this information from this person who happens to be on their honeymoon right now and they're out of office. So when you get an assignment that day, take 30 to 60 minutes to dip in, figure out what's involved here. What are all the tasks that need to be done? How is this going to be formatted? How is it going to be used by the supervising attorney? What questions do I know that I have? What resources do I need for others? And then you slot it into your spreadsheet, your list, the project list of everything that is on your plate. This dip-in method is something that I have associates come back after our workshops and say that was the most helpful thing that was covered in the entire 90-minute workshop you led on time and project management. So at least have this mindset of a dip-in, of even taking 5 minutes to scope out an assignment, especially if you haven't done it before. Now, the second component to these pillars, you have your work that you're responsible for, and you're able to see all of your work in one place, whether it be a spreadsheet or pen and paper. Then you have to figure out, well, how am I going to get this work done? How do I structure my time? I find that time blocking is highly effective for just about everyone, and I will fight those who say that attorneys can't use time blocking because you always have unexpected things that come up. So let me address that after I define what is time blocking. Time blocking is the idea that you look at your calendar at the start of a day or the start of a week, and you block out chunks of time for when you're going to get the work done. I time block by looking at my calendar in Outlook. I have all of my meetings scheduled, obviously, and then you have that white space, that empty space. And I look at my project list, the work that needs to get done, and I go into my calendar and I put blocks of time for when I will work on each task. And then when I start the day, I know exactly what I'm doing all day long. From 9 to 10 a.m., I'm going heads down doing this research. Then at 10 to 10:30, I have a 30-minute call with a client. Then I have this heads down time block for 2 hours. And then I'm going to spend 30 minutes going through my email. For those of you who say time blocking doesn't work because you're going to have the unexpected, things are going to come up that are urgent, they throw off your entire plan for the day. You're totally right. That's exactly what's going to happen. The value with time blocking isn't necessarily that you stick to it, that you live by it. The value is you can quickly catch when there is an issue with your capacity or predict when you might have a really long week, when you're working nights, when you're working weekends. Because if you had 2 hours blocked off to draft a memo, draft a brief, you get another task that comes up and you can't spend 2 hours working on that. You have to somehow shift that 2-hour time block somewhere else on your calendar. And if your whole week is jam-packed, maybe that ends up being from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night. But it allows you to understand what is required of you in terms of time investment, availability, in order to get the work done. I also find it's helpful when I have those days where I just don't feel in the zone. Maybe I have too much to do that I can't even get myself to do anything. It's like paralysis from overwhelm. Time blocking holds me accountable because at least I have something where, okay, I have to get this done because that's what I'm doing for this 30 minutes. And if I don't do it in this 30 minutes, I know, well, that's going to eat into what I was going to do this evening with my family. So try out time blocking. Some people like to do it in Outlook. Others like to do it. They print out a page every day that has from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. in 30-minute increments, and they write it down. If you have a Remarkable tablet, like I mentioned, I feel like I need to be sponsored by Remarkable. You can just have a PDF that you do every day. You write it in your tablet, and then you can erase it for the following day. So time blocking is how I manage my time, and I know how a lot of other people also manage their time. I will say if you're going to choose the Outlook approach, for all of the heads down work that you're doing, I recommend marking it as free so that it doesn't show up as busy if people look at your calendar and try and schedule time, or else your entire calendar is going to be blocked off. So just keep it as free so people can schedule over it if they need to. Now, when I teed up this episode, I said that there's 3 things we're talking about. What is all the work that's on your plate? How do you keep track of it? Number 2 is how do you manage your time to get that work done? And the third component is the people management. What this comes down to is how do you give peace of mind to your colleagues that they can rely on you? How do you exhibit reliability and show that you're being really intentional in managing your time so that deadlines don't get missed? Because the reality is, if you miss a deadline, even if it's an internal soft deadline, that has a ripple effect. You said you'd get it to them by 3 p.m. It ends up being 6 p.m. Well, the supervising attorney then has to get online that night because they couldn't do it in the afternoon when you were supposed to get it to them at 3 p.m. I think one of the most effective ways to give peace of mind that you're on top of it is through what I call a proactive status update. This is just a simple email. Hey, I'm working through this. This is what's already been accomplished. This is when you can expect the deliverable from me. No one's checking in on you. It's not like someone saying, hey, what's the status on this? You're just giving peace of mind. You're taking that initiative to say everything is on track. I think of this as a supervising attorney laying in bed at night thinking, is Elise doing this? Is she going to get this done? Will I have what I need before the client call tomorrow? You're telling them, yes, you have everything you need from me. I am aware of the deadline that's coming up. I have already gotten this accomplished, and I know exactly what still needs to happen. Now, not every supervising attorney wants these types of updates. So when you get an assignment from someone, especially if you've never worked with them before, just ask them, would it be helpful if I send you an update as I progress through this? Do you like to keep a pulse on my progress. There's going to be some micromanager supervising attorneys that will say, that would be so helpful, thank you. And others who say, no, we've worked together for a long time, I don't need that. I also think that when you are managing people, part of that is managing the requests you've given to other people. So I talk about this a lot in our delegation workshops. Just because you've asked someone to do something does not mean they are going to do it. So let's say you need something from a paralegal or another associate. You send them an email and you ask for it. Hopefully you're giving a really specific date and time on when you need that done. When you send that email, use the flagging technique. So just click on that red flag, make it red, right click, set a custom reminder for yourself to follow up in case you haven't heard from them. So if you ask for something, could you send this to me by Wednesday? Wednesday morning, if you haven't heard, send a follow-up for yourself of, hey, check in with so-and-so. I would send them an email. Hi, I was wondering if you needed anything from me in order to get this done by end of day today. Or maybe you're following up Thursday if it's not that urgent. I didn't see an email come through. Maybe I missed it. Let me know if I can help in any way. You're responsible for getting what you need. And life is busy. Everyone gets busy. Things get missed. And so I think having those reminders you set for yourself to follow up on what you've asked of people will prevent things from falling through the cracks. So we've talked through a lot in this episode around time, project, people management. If there are any specific topics or questions related to this or any other topic, let me know and we'll address it, whether it's in a solo episode or whether it's with one of the partners we're interviewing. All you have to do is call in and leave a voicemail. You don't have to share your name. And we'll use that to decide what we talk about in future episodes. So if you want to call in and suggest a topic, the number is 224-300-4053. Again, that's 224-300-4053. Let us know what you want advice on. You can also always email info@elleviewconsulting.com. We'll read every email and make sure that we're covering the topics that you would like guidance on. So I hope this was helpful as we talked about how to feel more in control of your time and attention, and also give that peace of mind to supervising attorneys so that they know you are totally on top of things.
Thanks for listening to Corner Office with me, Elise Powers. Be sure to follow me on LinkedIn for weekly tips on how to accelerate your career. If you're loving this podcast, I would be so grateful if you'd click follow on your favorite listening platform. While you're there, give us a 5-star rating. If you're interested in having me speak at your organization, or if you have topics you'd like us to cover on the podcast, send me a note at info@elleviewconsulting.com. That's info@eleview consulting.com. All opinions expressed by Elise and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Eleview Consulting or any law firm. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as legal advice or the basis for legal decisions.